And I think the government was watching that, and they're like, you know what? No one really cares. They're giving their data to all these private companies. So if they're doing that, we need to be looking at what the hell they're doing. And I honestly think that was a tech sector-led initiative, and everyone blames the government for invading our privacy. And we as a society handed it over long before that.
Well, I'm honored to be here today with two longtime friends and acquaintances, Untitled, Todd Berger.
Thanks for coming.
Todd and I look like we're 20, but we go back something like 12 years, I think.
Yeah, about a dozen.
And then you started working with Lucian as an intern, right?
Yep.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
About 13 years ago.
13 years ago?
Yeah.
Cool. So you two, along with 5 other samurai, have formed what?
Ello. So Paul Budnitz, Jake Zishin, Matthew Kitt, Gabe Barella, and Cashflow, our fourth partner, Justin.
So Ello is a social network.
Definitely a social network.
Something
we could talk a lot about the word social network.
So then what is the ethos behind bothering to do what must be a ton of work?
Yeah, well, I think anytime you engage in a new endeavor, you first see an opportunity. And so the social space is ripe with opportunity. There's a handful of players dominating it with arguably poor to verging on completely manipulative values. And we thought we could change that, and we could change that in a super positive way that would create a lot of opportunity for a lot of people and just provide a generally better experience.
The main difference to me is that you're kind of about the user, our right to privacy. You're not selling our data.
And the way we think about that is a social network that's in the business of selling data and serving ads is an advertising platform. It's not a social network. So in a lot of ways, we believe right now we're one of the only social networks.
So you're basically saying something very casually that is kind of profound, which is that Twitter, Facebook, they're advertising platforms.
Their customer
first.
Is the advertiser.
Right. So with Elephant Journal, about 70% of our readership comes through Facebook. As a journalist, I'm terrified by the power of one company to control 70% of the information disseminated. So do you seek to, 5 years from now, is one of your goals to be 10% of readers in a
we haven't set a goal that's based on a pure percentage like that. I mean, what we're trying to do is build a positive community and be profitable in doing that without selling ads, without selling data, and without selling out. So we've never set out to be a gigantic entity. It's about providing a better experience and doing that in a sustainable way that makes us profitable.
I guess the root of my question is some of my friends who have gone on to Ello who, maybe don't have cool beards and perfectly parted madman hair. Say it feels like a kind of private hipster club. Is your goal to be accessible to millions generally? Or is it to be a very small but incredibly...
It's totally accessible now. Do you want to elaborate on this?
Yeah, I mean the whole design of it, unlike other places on the internet where they're trying to serve you ads, we basically designed the most minimal thing we could to essentially be an art gallery. So we want everything to be focused on the content. So we want the whole user interface to sort of fade away behind that.
And the art gallery analogy is well, for one, you'd never see an advertisement in a contemporary art gallery next to art, because that would be done in completely poor taste and totally devalue the art. So the notion of highlighting anything someone makes and then sharing ads next to it immediately devalues that thing compared to other products in the market. I mean, we look at Ello more so as an experience than a product per se, but you have to define it.
You actually do view this as a community.
If you unify people around the right ideas and shared values, and the conversation, the value-driven conversation and the purpose-driven conversation around data, what should be done with it, what shouldn't be done with it, who should be purchasing it, that conversation is at an all-time high, and it's one of the most important conversations in our global culture right now.
So there's a lot of cynicism about the whole, like, we're not going to have ads or sell your data thing. So how are you going to, you know, the cynical question is like, you guys are going to get big and you're going to compromise and sell out. That's actually not going to happen even legally, right?
Yeah, well, legally, being a public benefit corporation, we have, in essence, a charter that enables us to put our commitment to society on the same level as our commitment, as our fiduciary commitment to our shareholders. And what that charter says is that we can't sell our users' data, we can't sell ads, and we can't sell our company to anyone that would do either of those two things.
And why is data such a concern?
Putting your personal data in the hands of private companies is just a completely frightening notion. And signing away your rights to that data, and now they own it, and they can leverage it and use it in whatever way possible. Like,
so have you got a call from the NSA saying this is all great, but we need a back door?
Zero. So we're still boutique enough, and I think we're going to be for quite some time, that we're just flying under the radar.
Meaning all the inquiries for...
No subpoenas from the NSA, from the US government, international requests for information, like we haven't had.
But isn't there an NSA thing where if they do request, you're not allowed to disclose that?
Yeah, so what a lot of people do and what we're doing is called a warrant canary. So basically the idea is you're allowed to say this hasn't happened yet. And if you say that every day, and then one day you don't say that, everyone can assume that it has happened.
So you can disclose that.
So you can in sort of a
without,
way.
by not disclosing, you disclose.
So Snowden did an AMA on Reddit, which is another fascinating community, where he said that contrary to a lot of people's fears, what should be happening is actually happening, which is the overreach of a government with a relatively complacent society had happened, been exposed, and then the corporations themselves were beginning to push back in terms of encryption and this sort of thing. I mean, obviously you feel like the right to privacy is important, even though it's not guaranteed anywhere in the US Constitution or...
Yeah, you know what's interesting is I think the private sector led the government sector into invading our privacy to a far greater extent. They made it okay by everyone checking these terms of service and these privacy policies on these crazy, big, explosive tech companies.
10-page terms of service.
And I think the government was watching that, and they're like, you know what? No one really cares. They're giving their data to all these private companies. So if they're doing that, we need to be looking at what the hell they're doing. And I honestly think that was a tech sector-led initiative, and everyone blames the government for invading our privacy. And like, we as a society handed it over long before that.
Corporations are sort of the gateway for that, because it's way easier for the government to ask the corporation for the data than to ask us personally.
And legally it's easier.
Yeah.
And say we want all Waylon's info than to put everything in order to come get Waylon's info.
Right. Yeah, there was a great quote about the Big Brother style quote saying, the fear was that Big Brother would reach into people's lives. But the sad irony of how it's gone is that people have actually voluntarily expose themselves in ways that they had no idea they were doing.
Completely.
Really.
Look, I mean, the Facebook model from day one was totally threatening.
That's so interesting. So you've never been on Facebook and you're a founder of a
The
Facebook
only
pillar.
personal profile I've ever had on any social network is on Ello.
On Ello?
Yeah, never had a personal profile on another social network. We're just doing it our way. And there's, I think, a lot of value in not being an expert in that space. If you look at what all the experts have done, they've all designed the same fucking things.
What are you doing that's completely kind of off the map?
Well, nothing is super off the map, really. I mean, I guess the business model, but in terms of how you interact on the actual platform, we have friends in noise. We essentially gave users the ability to categorize people. So we have some little things like that, but really, I mean, and we're just starting. So on Ello, you can see there's a public feature list of everything we've built so far, and everything we're working on building.
Right.
So we're not done by any means.
Sure, you're still working on
Yeah,
basic
and
stuff.
the holisticness of what we're building is the innovation built in with the business model and the fact that we're not going to sell data and we're not going to serve ads.
Right.
It's a lot of little things to provide a better, different experience. Abuse is something you have to be concerned with when you build a social network. Like people using it in all sorts of unhealthy, unsafe ways. We built some tools to manage that kind of stuff. In the very beginning, we have almost no abuse whatsoever. We have a community management team and there's like no abuse. If you go through comment after comment, they're all positive. I think some of that is because of some of the ways we've designed things, like how we've implemented comments and and things along those lines. But if there was like Twitter right now has a huge abuse problem. Too much spam, bullying, stalking,
Beheadings.
hate. Yeah.
It's like, check out my beheading, you know?
Yeah, we're not going to support that. Like,
Yeah.
when that comes up, we're going to take it down. And I get it
Yeah.
from a free speech perspective, it's pretty cool, but we don't want that shit on Ello.
Yeah.
If you're into that, go to Reddit.
But part of that's a virtue of it being small, right? Once you open it up to the douchebags of the world, you know.
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of people on there already. It's like, it's small compared to something like Facebook, but compared to like your normal peer group, it's pretty fucking big.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's at least like, it's probably like thousands of people.
Yeah.
Many thousands.
Yeah. What's gone wrong so far? Have there been any learning experiences, mistakes that are interesting, that have been kind of fun to figure out?
I mean, it's been nothing but learning.
We're not coming into this being experts, none
Right.
of us. I mean, in a lot of ways, we don't know what we're doing at all, which is totally awesome.
Well, your computers, your displays over here are way more organized than mine. So it's looking pretty good. You're obviously savvy, but it is fascinating that you haven't been on Facebook or Twitter
Sure.
or whatever. MySpace, you know.
Yeah,
I get it.
MySpace was cool.
Alrighty, well, Lucian, Todd,
Thank you for
Thanks for your
speaking
time.
with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully something comes out of this.
well, if nothing else, I feel much more relaxed. It's very surprising to me. I figured you guys would be like aging rapidly. It's impressive.
Hopefully
Thank you.
not.
Thanks, man. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, you bet.
It's
Thanks
cool.
for having
Proud of you
us.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Don't fuck it up.